Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much once again, dear devotees, for kindly being present here. I'm honored that all of you are kindly present here in this assembly, and I'm very thankful to both our hosts, Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu and Param Karuna Prabhu. Today, Param Karuna Prabhu is hosting since Dhameshwar Mahaprabhu Prabhu cannot be here for some reason. But I'm very happy to see all of you, dear devotees, and I'd like to begin our session number 5 of Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam by sharing the screen, which all of you should be able to see now. Dear devotees, welcome to session number 5 of Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. And many a times there are devotees who are saying that we are not able to pronounce Śikṣāṣṭakam. So many a times devotees are saying we are pronouncing it Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam or something like that. So dear devotees, it's very easy. Shiksha and Ashtakam. It is better to pronounce separately if that helps us. Shiksha, Ashtakam. Shiksha, Ashtakam. Then gradually when we become used to it, we can say Śikṣāṣṭakam. So this is how it should be pronounced properly. Otherwise, we may pronounce it incorrectly, Shishtastakam or something like that. So these are incorrect pronunciations. The correct pronunciation is Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. So we are in the 5th session of Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam, and I'll begin with the verse that has been composed especially for this verse of the Śikṣastakam. Śikṣastakamritabhau yo majjan majjayati svakan sagaurangas tatastham mam kadabdhau krakshyati swayam. Śikṣastakamritabhau yo majjan. While drowning himself, Sri Gauranga simultaneously causes his near and dear ones to drown in the nectar ocean of Sri Siksastakam. Sa Gaurangas, he Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, tatastham mam, but I am a mere bystander waiting at the shore. Kada abdhau krakshyati swayam. When will he forcibly pull me in his own ocean of Siksastakam? The devotee Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu relished these verses in the Gambhira in the final 12 years of his pastimes on this particular planet. Before we begin, I'd like to begin with a quote by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada says something. Param Karuna Prabhu, can you kindly read what he says?
Sure. Shri refers to Lakshmi.
No, you have to read
or in other.
You have to read from the top. That is, he says that from the top.
Shri Krishna plus Sankirtana equals Shri Krishna Sankirtana. Shri plus Krishna equals Shri Krishna. Shri refers to Lakshmi, or in other words, Shri Radhika, the origin of all Lakshmis. Therefore, the words Shri Krishna refer to the son of Nanda Maharaj with Shri Radha.
Yeah, so this is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He also takes the same line of thought that was expressed in the first talk on Sri Caitanya Śikṣāṣṭakam. What is the meaning of Shri Krishna? So Shri, he says, refers to Shri Radha, and Shri Krishna means Krishna along with Shri Radha. And Shri Krishna Sankirtan is Sankirtan of Krishna along with Shri Radha. This, dear devotees, was compiled in a compilation named Srila Prabhupada Upadeshamritam by Shri Bhakti Mayukh Bhagavat Maharaj, and you can see the original in the Bangla. The question is asked, Shri Krishna Sankirtan kaha ke bale? What is known as Shri Krishna Sankirtan? Then he says Shri Krishna plus Sankirtan is Shri Krishna Sankirtan. Then he says Shri Krishna is Shri plus Krishna. And then he ahead says Shri Lakshmi, Arthat Sarva Lakshmi Ganer Amshini Shrimati Gandharva. He says Shri refers to Lakshmi, or in other words, the origin of all Lakshmis, that is Shri Radha. Sutaram, definitely. Shri Krishna Bolite Gandharva Shri Radha Sahit Giridhar Brajendra Nandan. So Shri Krishna means Brajendra Nandan along with Shri Radha. This is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's instruction compiled in Srila Prabhupada Upadeshamritam. So we now know what is the meaning of Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Dear devotees, we are continuing with the first verse. I'll sing again the first verse. We'll see the word for word and then we'll continue. Cheto darpana marjanam bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam Śreyah kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadhu jivanam anandambudhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritaswadanam sarvatmasnapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Dear devotees, this is the first verse. The word for word meanings, the Anvay is in front of us. Param Karuna Prabhu, can you kindly read the Anvay, top to bottom, left to right?
So just English, I suppose.
Yeah, just English.
It cleanses the mirror of the consciousness, eradicates the massive wildfire of material existence, causes a moonlight diffusion that blooms the night water lily of all-round auspiciousness, becomes the life and soul of the newlywed bride of all divine knowledge, swells the ocean of joy, causes an experience of complete nectarian bliss in each successive syllable as well as word, and thoroughly cleanses the entirety of one's self. That entity named Shri Krishna's Sankirtana reigns supremely victorious.
This, dear devotees, is the Anvay. We simply rearrange all of this in a sentence and we find it. We have a translation of the verse. Now, in the previous sessions, we have gone in great detail in Cheto Darpana Marjanam. And we saw the various points given by the various commentators. And there are many more angles or many more points which we can continue to explore. But the major points have been covered in the discussion so far. We can continue discussing avidya, which we discussed last time, and we can continue discussing avidya for a long, long time. But the main focus of the verse is not avidya. The main focus of the verse is Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. But Shri Krishna Sankirtanam will come at the very end. But before that, we are seeing the 7 characteristics of Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Today, it is time to move to the second characteristic, bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. Now, we will understand the term bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. That Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, its second characteristic is nirvāpaṇam. It eradicates. The Agni, Agni refers to fire. Dava Agni refers to wildfire, forest fire. Mahā-dāvā Agni, massive wildfire of bhava, of material existence. So bhava, maha, dāvāgni, nirvāpaṇam. Previously also in the Upadeshamritam sessions we have discussed, and when we translate from Sanskrit to English, usually when we translate a samas, a compound term like this, we usually go from right to left while translating into English. So Nirvapanam, it eradicates the Dāvāgni, wildfire. But what wildfire? Mahā-dāvāgni, massive wildfire of bhava, of material existence. So this is bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. The previous Acharya commentator Shri Veer Chandra Goswami explains in his commentary to Shri Padyavali, because Shri Padyavali contains all the 8 verses of the Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam. Therefore, he explains in his commentary, Rasika Rangada is the name of the commentary. He says, Bhavaha samsara eva mahādāvāgnis. The term bhava means samsara, means material existence. And eva mahādāvāgni. This bhava, this material existence is itself a mahādāvāgni, massive wildfire. Tasya nirvāpaṇam nashanam. So the nirvāpaṇam, the eradication or extinguishing of this massive wildfire of material existence is known as bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. Then he says, he quotes a Sanskrit dictionary, Nirvāpaṇam nāshane syāt. He says, iti Shabda Ratnakara. This is according to the Shabda Ratnakara lexicon dictionary. The term Nirvāpaṇam is used in the sense of nashane. Nashane means in the sense of eradication or destruction. Then he says, etena, by this, Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is compared to a rain cloud. He says, Megha Upamam. So Shri Krishna Sankirtan is being compared to a rain cloud here. So, Paramkarna Prabhu, do you remember Cheto Darpanam Arjanam? What was Shri Krishna Sankirtanam being compared to?
I'm blanking out, sorry.
Okay.
Cheto Darpanam Marjanam, so it is being compared to the water that is cleansing
Wonderful.
the dust.
Wonderful. Yes.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
he says Puta Jalopamam. In the first adjective, he was saying that Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is being compared to purifying water. And in the second comparison, Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, he says Megha Upamam. It is being compared to a rain cloud. Dear devotees, this is what Shri Krishna Sankirtanam looks like. Bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. Bhava, material existence, itself is mahā-dāvāgni. It's like a great forest fire. Nirvāpaṇam. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is like the cloud which extinguishes this great forest fire. Dear devotees, a question will naturally arise. Early morning, when we sing Mangal Arati, the first phrase is Samsara Davanala. So, Samsar means bhava, material existence, is Dava Anal. Anal means Agni. Samsar is Davagni. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here says, no, Samsar is not Davagni. Samsar is Mahā-dāvāgni. Bhava Mahā-dāvāgni. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Bhava is Davagni, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, no, it is Mahā-dāvāgni. So both Acharyas are correct in their understanding. But today we will see specifically why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that the material world is compared to a great wildfire, Mahā-dāvāgni. We will see that today in some time, but for the time being, we'll understand from the point of view of other commentators who are explaining. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his Anubhashya, he also gives the breakdown of this. He says, Bhava samsar eva mahādāvāgni, tasya nirvāpaṇam yasmat. He says, material existence is known as bhava. It is itself a massive wildfire, mahādāvāgni. And yasmat, due to this Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, tasya nirvāpaṇam, its eradication happens. Eradication of bhava mahādāvāgni happens due to Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Dear devotees, I had explained that some acharyas give comparisons as a simile. For example, some acharyas will say material existence is like a massive wildfire, and some acharyas will say material existence is exactly a massive wildfire. So there is some difference between these two. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, Bhava samsara eva mahadavagnis. Material world is exactly like a blazing fire. The question arises, Param Karuna Prabhu, question arises, is the material world exactly like a blazing fire?
Not always.
Not always. Isn't there happiness in the material world?
Sure.
Of course there is happiness. So why is he saying that Bhava samsara eva mahadavagni? Why is he comparing directly to a great forest fire? What is the reason? So today we'll try to see that also. So the Ananda Chandrika Tippani by Shri Utsavananda also explains in a very short way, Samsara Rupa Mahadavagni Nashanam. The Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam, and it is the destruction of that great wildfire which has manifested in the form of this material existence. In simple words, dear devotees, Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is like that rain cloud which is showering water to extinguish the great wildfire of material existence. Now, we have many viewpoints now, but we would like to explore the subject matter a little more. So let's bring other commentators from other Gaudiya Vaishnava lineages who will explain the term in greater detail. Dear devotees, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but first and foremost wants to explain it a little bit more. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, Apatatah sumadharopi. I asked a question just now. Why is he comparing it directly to a great forest fire? Isn't there happiness in the world? So Param Karuna Prabhu said, yes, there appears to be happiness. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains himself. He says, Apatatah, even in the immediate run, if it appears to be sumadhuro, extremely sweet, but still, samsaroayam, this material world, nibida kananantara chara davanala kalpo bhavati. It quickly becomes like a great wildfire burning inside a forest. And then davagnina hi kanana rajita taruraji prayasha eva vinashameti. Due to this, due to this wildfire, the entirety of trees in the forest are almost destroyed. He then continues that a person who has turned away from Krishna, he says Krishna Vimukhajana, constantly experiences the burning sensation of this forest fire-like world. But then says Parantu, Shri Krishnasya Samyak Kirtana Matrenaiva. Simply by performing Sankirtan, Samyak Kirtan, complete Kirtan of Shri Krishna, such a person becomes inclined to Krishna and gets relief from the forest fire even while staying in this world. So this is in his Anuvritti, he is explaining bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. The devotees now will dig deeper by bringing other Gaudiya Vaishnava commentators who are explaining the same phrase. The respectable Sri Radha Govindanath, who in his commentary to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita begins by asking a query. What is the Davanal, wildfire or forest fire, which is being referred to in this phrase? Bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. So what is this Dāvāgni? So he replies by saying, the fire actually is the burning of threefold miseries. What are the threefold miseries? So Adhi-daivika, Adhi-bhautika, and Adhyatmika. These three are derived from the terms Adhidaiva, Adhibhuta, and Adhyatma. What is Adhidaiva? Adhidaiva means that which is controlled by the devatas, that which is controlled by the higher deities. So Adhidaivika misery, Adhidaivika klesh, is that misery which is caused due to higher powers the devatas in the form of floods or in the form of, drought, etc. So this is known as Adi Daivika Klesha. Adi Bhautika is that which is caused by the external environment and other living entities. For example, miseries caused by other living entities, miseries caused by the material world in general, and Adhyatmika is miseries which are caused due to one's own mind, one's own senses. So these are Adhyatmic miseries. In these three miseries are the burning fire, in which the jiva is burning. And then he says, when a wildfire takes over, the entire forest is helplessly reduced to ashes. Similarly, he says, by burning in the fire of threefold miseries, the jiva is rendered completely helpless. The devotees, when a fire burns in a forest, the living entities in the forest try to find an exit. But when the fire is extremely huge, no matter which direction they take, they are unable to find an exit and they are helplessly burnt in the forest fire. So he says that similarly, the living entity also, in this great forest fire of material existence, there is no respite. The living entity becomes helpless in this forest fire. He says, thus, bhava, material existence, is like Mahā-dāvāgni, is like a great wildfire. Further, he says, there are many similarities between a forest fire, a wildfire, and this material world. He gives three similarities, dear devotees. Please hear carefully. What are the three similarities between a forest fire and the material world? First, he says, a wildfire in a forest is usually not started by anyone. The forest trees swaying in the wind, they cause mutual friction and a great fire starts burning. So, he says, similarly, in this material universe, the dur-vasana. What is dur-vasana? Dur means negative and vasana means tendencies. So the dur-vasanas, the negative tendencies from many, many infinite lives of the various living entities are present. These negative tendencies are like the forest and they rub against each other. And this is what causes a terrible burning sensation within the consciousness. He says, due to these various durvasanas, negative tendencies, whatever negative karma we have accumulated in this life or previous lives result in this burning effect for us. So he's saying very simple thing. You can look here. You can see, dear devotees, how forests are densely intertwined. Now, Param Karuna Prabhu, this forest is waiting only for one thing to ignite. And what is it waiting for?
Mutual friction.
Mutual friction. And as soon as there will be friction due to blowing of wind, then due to this friction, what will happen is the forest will be set on fire. This is an external forest, but in the material world, there is another forest which is made out of durvasana. Durvasana means it is made out of the negative tendencies of all the living entities present in the universe. The devotees, due to these durvasanas, these negative tendencies which collide against each other, the material world is like a constantly burning forest. So this is the first comparison that he gives, first reason why the material world is compared to a wildfire. And nobody needs to ignite it. Automatically, the durvasanas, the negative tendencies of the living entities collide against each other. And then it results in a burning sensation for the living entities who are involved. Dear devotees, he is indicating something. No durvasana equal to no fire. If we don't have a durvasana, if we don't have negative tendencies from previous lives, we will not get involved in the fire. But still, other living entities have durvasanas and we may see other living entities suffer and that may give us suffering. But if we personally don't have durvasanas, we will be protected from most of the personal suffering in this material world. So the durvasanas are compared to the dry trees which are experiencing friction and burning. The devotees, he continues ahead and says, we ourselves are solely responsible for burning in the wildfire of the threefold miseries of this world. Nobody else is ultimately responsible for this. Ultimate responsibility is upon us. Short and sweet, no durvasana, no wood, no experience of burning. Param Prabhu, it is ultimately what is burning in the forest? Which substance is burning in the forest?
The wood.
And the wood is being compared to what?
Durvasana.
If before the forest fire takes place, if we cut down the wood, will the wood, ever burn?
No.
No, it will not burn. So similarly, dear devotees, no durvasana, no wood, no burning sensation, and then most of the suffering will be prevented. So ultimately, we are responsible. Dear devotees, he then says, many a times our mind thinks that such and such individual is responsible for the calamities in our life. He says this is purely an illusion of our mind. Purely an illusion. He says it is bhava. He says calamities are the results we earned by our own karma. And we must bear the results. The individual we hold responsible for our calamities is simply an agent of delivery of our own previous karma. He also gives a wonderful example. He says if you go to a market and then you buy many vegetables and then you tell the vegetable seller, you deliver it to my home. So the delivery boy who delivers it to our home is not the actual person with whom we had a transaction. The person with whom we had a transaction is the shopkeeper. But in the immediate run, it seems that the delivery boy or the delivery person is the one who is giving the vegetables to us. But previously, we have purchased those vegetables and the delivery boy is simply delivering it to us. There's a wonderful verse which comes to my mind. Yatha dhenu sahasreshu vatso vindati mataram tatha apurva kritam karma kartaram anugacchati. Just as a calf is able to find its mother amongst a million cows, similarly, previously committed karma is able to find its intended recipient. So in this way, dear devotees, he says that these calamities are the results that we earned by our own karma. Nobody else is responsible for these calamities. We ourselves are responsible. Anybody else is simply an agent of delivery. Then he says something very important. If we behave incorrectly towards the individual who is merely acting as an agent of delivery of our own previous karma, then we are creating new karma and implicating ourselves even more. So, those individuals who in our current life are giving us the results of our previous negative karma. For example, somebody is married and maybe in a very terribly unhappy marriage, or somebody may be terribly dissatisfied with their daughter or son. So, somebody may be pointing to this person is the cause of my suffering. But if we behave incorrectly towards the agent who is delivering our previous karma, then we are creating new karma and implicating ourselves even more. Recently, there was an incident where a person was sentenced to prison for maybe 1 or 2 years, and he attacked the judge when the sentencing was going on. Param Prabhu, what do you think is going to happen?
He's going to get into a lot more trouble.
So, felony or double felony, Prabhu?
Double or even more.
Yeah. So, he was charged not only for the original crime, which was assault, but he was also charged for a crime assault on a protected member of society. So two charges were put upon him, and then he got additional years in prison. So his mistake was to consider the judge as the person who is responsible for his suffering, when in fact the judge was simply a delivery agent for the karma which he had previously committed. So then he says it is our karma that leads us to take birth in a specific place. If we have taken birth in a specific country, maybe a first world country, second world country, third world country, poor country, rich country, in the house of a particular set of parents, our parents may be behaving in a certain way, and we may have a particular set of relatives. Some of us have relatives who don't care about us at all. Some of us have relatives who are poking into our lives like anything. And we take birth in a particular environment. So all of this happens because of previous karma. Some people take birth in families that have a very good culture of cleanliness. Some people take birth in families which do not have a culture of cleanliness. So all of these factors are decided by the previous karma of an individual. So whatever parents, whatever relatives we get, sometimes good, sometimes bad, it is all due to previous karma, he says. In such an environment, each and every family member, including us, is the agent of delivery of each other's karma. And then he says, this is the first reason why, the material world is compared to a great forest fire. Even the family members have their branches intertwined, and they are, continuously rubbing against each other and causing distress to each other. He says the second reason why the material world is compared to a great forest fire is because in a forest fire or wildfire, the trees are not able to protect themselves from the fire. They simply have to burn. And similarly, he says the jiva also has to burn. Why? Because the tree is rooted to the ground, the tree cannot escape. And the jiva is also hopelessly rooted to the various desires for attaining happiness in this world. And therefore, the jiva cannot escape the fire of threefold miseries. I remember in my childhood, when I was studying the subject Hindi, there was a particular chapter, particular story where a person who's very greedy is told, that you start in the morning, start running in the morning, and as much area as you can cover by the time the sun sets, that much area will be yours. But only one condition: you have to return back to the point from where you started. So you have to intelligently decide how much you run, and then you have to come back to the same point from where you started. As much area as you cover, that much area will be yours. So that poor person is so hopelessly attached to gaining more and more piece of land. He keeps running. In the middle of the day, his mind reminds him, now you have to turn back. But his hopes say, no, no, I will run faster in the evening and I will cover it up. And then in the process of covering as much area as possible in the first half of the day, then what happens is he oversteps his time boundary. And by the time he comes running back, he's unable to reach the starting point. And because of this, he doesn't get anything. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Dear devotees, this is the condition of the jiva. The jiva can escape, but is hopelessly tied, just like a tree, and hopelessly tied to the various desires for attaining happiness in this world. And he says, then Sri Radha Govindanath quote Sri Narottam Das Thakur, he says, Samsara Vishanale, Dibanishi Hiya Jwale, Judaite na koinu upay. My heart is always burning in the wildfire of material existence, and I have no way of getting out of it. This is what he's pointing out. I have no way. What is the meaning of I have no way of getting out of it? Because I am hopelessly tied to the desires for attaining happiness in this world. So this is the second reason of second point of similarity. And he says, third point of similarity. After getting burnt in the wildfire, the forest loses its identity. Before the forest burnt and after the forest burnt, you may not be able to recognize the forest after it has burnt. Yes, similar is the condition of the jiva, whose potentially every jiva is a servant of Krishna. But due to burning in the material world, since beginningless time, the jiva takes on a completely different identity. And the thought of serving Krishna, which is his potential nature, never arises in that jiva. The devotees, these are the three similarities between the material world and a great forest fire, bhava and mahadavagni. However, he says, if, please hear carefully, in continuous, intense rainfall occurs for a prolonged duration, then it is possible to extinguish such a blazing wildfire. The devotees, he uses three adjectives: continuous, intense, prolonged. Continuous means when it is raining, it doesn't stop in between. Intense means the outpour is heavy. And prolonged is it is for a long duration, not just for a day or two. So if the rainfall in a burning forest occurs in a continuous, intense, and prolonged manner, then it is possible to extinguish such a blazing wildfire. Similarly, he says, by performing Shri Krishna Sankirtanam in a continuous, intense manner for prolonged duration, it is possible to extinguish bhava-mahā-dāvāgni. So, the same three factors which are applicable to rainfall also are applicable to Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Shri Krishna Sankirtanam should be continuous, intense, and for prolonged duration. Now, by continuous, it means that every day we should perform Shri Krishna Sankirtan. And it should be intense. It should not be, lightweight. It should be intense. And we should do it for prolonged duration. Then it is possible to come out of the burning sensation of the material world. Dear devotees, this is the sort of rainfall that we need. And then finally, he says, we should understand one very important fact. He says, a tiny flame, Agni, can be easily extinguished by a gush of wind. Simply, if you blow into small Agni, you can blow it out. A forest fire, Dāvāgni, Param Karuna Prabhu, can you extinguish a forest fire simply by blowing into it?
Not at all.
Not at all. Cannot be extinguished merely by a gush of wind. Such a forest fire needs a shower of rainfall to be completely extinguished. But Prabhu, what to speak of a terrible forest fire, Mahadavagni? Can a Mahadavagni be fully extinguished simply by a single rainfall, Prabhu? It is
No.
not possible. It needs continuous, intense, and prolonged rainfall. Therefore, similarly, the burning miseries of the jiva cannot be extinguished simply by giving consolations. Oh, I understand your suffering. Oh, I know terrible thing happened with you. This is comparable simply to blowing. Sometimes consolations increase the suffering of a person. So, like blowing in a wildfire, it may sometimes contribute to increasing the wildfire. So, giving consolations doesn't work sometimes. Material enjoyments or medicine also don't work. Material enjoyments or medicine can be compared to a single shower. But continuous, intense, and prolonged Shri Krishna Sankirtan can extinguish bhava-mahā-dāvāgni. This, dear devotees, is Shri Radha Govindanath's commentary on bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. So you can see pretty detailed commentary. Param Karuna Prabhu, are we satisfied with this explanation of bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam?
I feel very satisfied. I learned many new points.
Right. So I think this should be enough. We have explored all the angles of bhava-mahā-dāvāgni. isn't it? Right?
Yes, Prabhuji, we have, but from the line you are going with, it looks like there's a lot more to uncover as
All right.
I'm
So,
sensing.
yeah, another commentator is waiting, dear devotees. Sri Kanupriya Goswami. When I introduced him, I didn't give his title. His title is Nam Vigyan Acharya. So in his circle of disciples, he was known as Nam Vigyan Acharya. He begins explaining and gives a completely new angle to bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. He says, previously it was described how Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is Cheto Darpana Marjanam. That we all know. It cleanses the dusty mirror-like consciousness. Wonderful. Okay, we have studied that. He says, as one's consciousness gets cleansed, one becomes more and more inclined towards Shri Krishna. The more one becomes inclined towards Shri Krishna, the more one realizes that this material world is bhava-mahā-dāvāgni, a terrible blazing wildfire. So he makes it a series. The more Cheta Darpana Marjanam occurs, the more we will realize that bhava or material world is like a mahadavagni. So, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleansing of the mirror of consciousness. And then you realize, oh, bhava-mahā-dāvāgni, material world is like a great forest fire. Till now, I didn't realize. And then Sri Krishna Sankirtanam itself will perform the second function, Nirvāpaṇam. It will also extinguish this great forest fire. But he says first Cheto Darpana Marjanam, then gradually we will realize that material world is like a great blazing forest fire. He says naturally doubt will arise. As one's consciousness gets cleansed by performing Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, one should realize happiness. Why should one start perceiving material existence as Mahadavagni or great forest fire? He gives a reply. He says, this is because previously due to unclean mirror of consciousness, and he had explained in an unclean mirror sometimes, or in a mirror which is not properly framed, you see distorted things. This is the conditioned jiva could not perceive the reality of the material world. The jiva mistook the poisonous snake-like material world to be like a soft garland and voluntarily placed it around its neck. Once the dirty mirror of consciousness gets a little cleansed, one sees the material world for what it is actually. And what is the material world? He says it is a great blazing forest fire. Immediately, we may not be able to see. So, dear devotees, he is giving a similar point as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was giving. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said, Apatataha sumudharopi. In the immediate run, it may appear very sweet. But when you look carefully at it, the material world is this great blazing forest fire. So he also says this. So Sri Kanupriya Goswami says, as soon as the consciousness starts getting cleansed, you will start seeing the material world for what it actually is. It is a great blazing forest fire. Now, dear devotees, let us understand the main term, bhava-mahā-dāvāgni and nirvāpaṇam. Let's try to understand this. He says, in this phrase, there is a literary ornament, what we also call in English figure of speech named upama. Upama is simile. So, dear devotees, what is upama, simile? When we compare one object to the other. For example, if we say to somebody, your face is like the moon. The simplest example, your face is like the moon. This is an example of simile, also known as in Sanskrit as upama. In upama, there is the upameya, the object which we are comparing, which is the face. And then there is the upaman, the standard to which we are comparing it to, the moon. So upameya and upaman are there. Upameya, your face, is like upaman, the moon. And this comparison is called upama or simile. So he says there is this figure of speech named upama or simile being used. And what are the similes? He says bhava, material existence, is being compared to mahadavagni. So this simile we understand. Another simile, he says Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is being compared to nirvāpaṇam, eradication of the blazing wildfire. So there are two similes going on in this phrase. So bhava is like Mahadavagni, and Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is like Nirvapanam. You see, this commentator has taken a different angle. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says bhava is directly a forest fire, and he says it is like a forest fire. So here is where you can see the slight difference in interpretation. So it's very important that these slight differences in interpretation should also be noted by us, because these give new angles to our understanding. Then he says the term bhava refers to samsara, material existence, which consists of repeated birth and deaths according to one's previous karma. Same as what Shri Radha Govindanath was saying. He says these previous karmas lead to distress, burning. And he quotes a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Karmani dukkhodarkani kurvan dehena tahi punah dehama bhajate tatra kim sukham martya dharminah. In the 10th chapter of the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, he says, Karmani dukkha udarkani. The conditioned soul continues to perform karmani, various karma which are dukkha udarkani, inauspicious, the source of distress. Kurvan, when he is performing such karma, dehena taipuna, with this body, dehama bhajate. The soul attains another body, full of suffering. Kim sukham martya dharmina, what happiness is there for such a soul? In this material world, if you see from the ultimate point of view, he says that there is no suffering. The material world can be compared to a blazing forest fire. And it is pointless to try and find happiness inside a blazing forest fire. Similarly, mature realization is to come to the point where it is meaningless to find happiness within the material world. So although we may continue to endeavor for giving day-to-day bodily comforts, for example, we may continue to give the body the comforts that it requires, but we are not actively seeking it out. So dear devotees, this is the point of maturity that should be reached. Then he says, very important question, and he gives a very beautiful point here. Why is material existence bhava compared to Mahā-dāvāgni, great forest fire, instead of just an ordinary forest fire? So haven't, dear devotees, we read in the morning, samsara davanal, samsara is Dāvāgni. Why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying Mahā-dāvāgni? So this point is answered by Sri Kanupriya Goswami. He says, the reason is that an ordinary forest fire, Dāvāgni, begins at a certain time and it is automatically extinguished after consuming the entire forest. The forest fire burns for a few days, few months. The forest is consumed and then the forest fire gets extinguished by itself. Isn't it true, Param Karuna Prabhu? This is what is Dāvāgni.
Yes, yes, Prabhuji.
But Mahā-dāvāgni, material existence is Maha, because it is Anadi. It never begun at any point of time. Forest fire begins at a certain point of time, dear devotees. Therefore, forest fire is justified as Dāvāgni. But Bhava, material world, is Mahā-dāvāgni because material existence is Anadi. And this Anadi, material existence, there was no beginning in time for the conditioned souls. And also, it doesn't get extinguished automatically. It's not that you simply just wait for some time and automatically it will get extinguished. No, 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 no. It's not like this forest fire. It continues to burn as long as the jiva doesn't get liberated from material existence. Thus, for these two reasons, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just doesn't call it Dāvāgni. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu compares material existence to Mahā-dāvāgni. He then says, then he says the threefold miseries, Adi Bhautik, Adi Daivik and Adhyatmik, burn the conditioned souls. And such a great wildfire cannot get extinguished by itself. No, no, no. Not that I will continue to enjoy in this material world and gradually one day will come when automatically this fire will get exhausted. Sorry, it is not possible. In fact, by increasing material enjoyment, we are ultimately increasing the wood in the forest And by increasing the wood in the forest, we are increasing the future suffering. And he quotes a verse from the Bhagavatam to prove this point. न जातु कामः कामानाम् उपभोगेन शाम्यति हविषा कृष्णवर्त्मेव भूय एवाभिवर्धते न जातु कामः कामानाम् उपभोगेन शाम्यति हविषा कृष्णवर्त्मेव हविषा by supplying butter to Krishna Vartma. Krishna Vartma is another name for Agni or fire. So by supplying butter to fire, one does not diminish the fire, but increases it more. Bhuya punaha eva abhivardate. Fire increases more. Similarly, by endeavoring to stop material desires, by exhausting material desires, by enjoying as much as possible, you are not going to exhaust it. You are simply adding wood to the forest. And the forest, burning forest is waiting for more wood so that the burning can continue. So don't add more wood. Gradually, you have to come to the point where you can get detached. But detachment cannot happen by itself. You need an external agent. Dear devotees, that external agent is Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. And not only that, material enjoyment has a very strange nature, he says. Very, very strange nature, he says. He quotes a verse from Bhartrihari's Vairagya Shataka. And this verse is, it is very nice. I'll sing this verse. The meter is Shardula Vikreditam. It says, Bhoge Roga Bhayam Kule Chuti Bhayam Vitendra Palad Bhayam Mane Dainya Bhayam Bale Ripu Bhayam Rupe Jaraya Bhayam Shastre Vadi Bhayam Gune Khala Bhayam Kaye Kritantat Bhayam Sarvam Vastu Bhayanvitam Bhuvindranam Vairagyameva Bhayam Oge Roga Bhayam. Don't think you can enjoy continuously in the world. It is impossible. In enjoyment, there is fear of disease. Hoge Roga Bhayam. Kule Chuti Bhayam. Even if you take birth in a good family due to previous karma, Chuti Bhayam, there is fear of falling from the standards of the family. Some person takes birth in a family where only doctors have, there are everybody is a doctor. And there is a fear, if I don't become a doctor, I'll fall from the standard of the family. So even taking birth in a good family leads to a lot of fear. It's not all rosy. In earning wealth, there is fear of kings and government who will charge hefty tax. Mane dainya bhayam. In being respected in society, somebody wants to be respected, but there's always the fear of humiliation. Somebody may come and cast a false allegation and try to humiliate us. Bale ripu bhayam. Somebody wants to become strong in society, but there's always fear of enemies, especially politicians who want to display strength. There is fear of enemies. Rupe jaraya bhayam. And those people who have been gifted with beauty, as and when the years pass and the milk-like skin starts rotting, jaraya bhayam. How do you prevent the milk from rotting? Param Karuna Prabhu, is there any way to prevent milk from rotting? Pasteurization works only for a few days.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Oh, we have pasteurization and we have cosmetics to prevent aging of the skin. But the nature of milk is to rot, and rot it will certainly at a certain point of time. And this causes bhayam. In personal beauty, there is fear of old age. Shastre Vadi Bhayam. In learning Shastra, I will know all Shastra. I will quote Shastra left, right, and center. Then there is fear of those who will contradict us on a certain point. Gune Khala Bhayam. Some people just want to be good in the world. Just be good and do good. But even they have fear. If some ruffian comes, then my good qualities won't help. And if no other fear, Kaye Kritantat Bhayam, there is fear of death in each and everybody. Kritanta is Yamraj, the agent of death. So his fear is there in each and every body. Sarvam vastu bhayanvitam bhuvindridam. Indeed, all objects have been viciously plagued by some or the other fear. Only one thing is fearless. Vairagyameva bhayam. Renunciation is fearless in this world. So he quotes this verse and says, continuous enjoyment is also impossible in this world. Somebody may say, I will extinguish my material desires by enjoying continuously. Sorry, it is not possible. First and foremost, if you try to enjoy continuously, material desires will increase. Secondly, it is impossible for anybody to enjoy continuously. Bhoge rog bhayam. You will have fear of disease. You will have fear of government. You will have fear of opponents. You will have fear of old age, and ultimately you'll have fear of death itself. Sorry, it is impossible. This is Bhartrihari's Vairagya Shatakam, 100 verses on renunciation. And he quotes this particular verse. Therefore, material enjoyment, even when you're enjoying it, is like a forest fire. Even while you're enjoying, in the moment of enjoyment, it is like forest fire, dear devotees. While one is eating rasgullas, there are many people while eating gulab jamuns and rasgullas are worrying within their mind, what will be my sugar level after I eat this? How much sugar will I have after I eat this? Param Karuna Prabhu, have you seen people who are eating with this fear in their mind?
I'm one of them.
Oh, sorry, Prabhu. This was not intentional, but
I have no, I'm guilty of it.
so, Bhoge Roga Bhayam. Always there is the fear of Roga. There is the fear of uh, disease increasing. Even if we want to enjoy a simple piece of gulab jamun, it is impossible. Intelligent are those who realize the material world is a great forest fire, even if while you are trying to enjoy it. So he concludes by saying, by immersing oneself in Sankirtan, consisting primarily of Harikatha, we easily keep the mind and consciousness peaceful and free from the great forest fire. This very important point he is making. Sankirtan consisting of Harikatha. Hear about Shri Krishna. Hear directly about Shri Krishna. Why? Because hearing about Shri Krishna gives us information about that particular personality who is of the same nature as us. We are Chidvastu. We are spiritual entities. Bhagavan is also Chidvastu. Bhagavan is also spiritual entity. And only when Chidvastu contacts a Chidvastu will there be similarity of interest, similarity of enjoyment. And we will keep away from the great forest fire. Then he quotes another verse from the Bhagavatam. Yadha yadhatma parimrijyate sau matpunygatha shravanabhidhanai tatha tatha pashyati vastu sukshmam chakshuryathaivānjana samprayuktam. Very nice verse. When a diseased eye is treated with medicinal ointment, it gradually recovers its power to see. Similarly, as a conscious living entity cleanses himself of material contamination by hearing and chanting the pious narrations of my glories, he regains the ability to see me, the absolute truth in my subtle spiritual form, in my original spiritual form. This is Bhagavan saying that by Shravanam Kirtanam, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam will happen, and then the living entity will perceive me. When the living entity will perceive me, that is Krishna is saying, at that point of time, the living entity will find finally that substance, Chid Vastu, which the living entity was looking for, because the living entity wants rasa, and Krishna is Akhila Rasa Amrita Murtihi. So the seeker of rasa comes in contact with the completely full container of rasa. And this connection is what the living entity is looking for. Dear devotees, if in a burning forest fire, if you stand under a continuous stream of cooling water, even if the forest is burning around you, But if there is a sudden outpour of cooling water simply around you, only around you, Param Karuna Prabhu, even in the middle of the forest fire, will we be burning?
No, we'll be protected.
You'll be protected. So the forest fire, the heat of the forest fire won't touch us. Similarly, those who are drenched in Krishna Bhakti Ras. But how do you attain Krishna Bhakti Ras? By Sankirtan. And what sort of Sankirtan? Consisting primarily of Harikatha. Hear about Krishna's Naam, Rupa, Gun, Lila. Then it is like showering ourselves with that rasa. In the middle of the burning forest, you are happy. And after the body, after the death of the body, you attain Krishna's own abode. This, dear devotees, is how we should stay in this world. He says, finally, the Srimad Bhagavatam proclaims the destruction of bhava-mahā-dāvāgni, the destruction of this forest fire is the greatest achievement for the conditioned soul. The Srimad Bhagavatam says, Na hyatah paramo labho dehinam bhramyatamiha yato vindet paramam shantim nashyati samsriti. Nahi atah paramo labho. Indeed, there is no higher possible gain for embodied souls who are bhramyatamiha, who are forced to wander throughout the material world. What is the greatest benefit? The Supreme Lord Sankirtan movement, by which vindeta paramam, by which one can attain the supreme peace and free oneself from bhava-mahā-dāvāgni, from samsara, from the repeated cycle of birth and death. Dear devotees, Sankirtan is not mentioned in this verse directly, but the previous verse was about Sankirtan. 11.5.36 was about Sankirtan. Kalim savajayantyarya gunagya sarabhang bhaginah. So the previous verse was about Sankirtan. So this verse is connected to the previous verse. And simply by Sankirtan, one gets the highest gain to be had in this material world, which is, you can see in the verse, Nashyati samsriti. Samsriti, bhava is destroyed. Bhava-mahā-dāvāgni is finally destroyed simply by performing proper Shri Krishna Sankirtanam under the guidance of an individual who has himself extinguished this fire. Under the proper guidance of an individual, Samyak Kirtan, complete Kirtan, will ensure that we also experience relief in this burning material world. So, dear devotees, this is what the previous commentators have brought out. Now, I am satisfied to a great extent because we covered bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam from so many different points of view. Especially we saw the explanation of Shri Veerchandra Goswami, who says that bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam compares Sankirtan to a massive rain cloud. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says material world is directly like a blazing fire, although immediately it may appear to be very beautiful. Then we also had the gloss of Shri Utsavanand, Ananda Chandrika. Then we started seeing Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's some more details from him. Then we also saw the detailed commentary of Sri Radha Govindanath, who gives 3 points of similarity between the material world and a great forest fire. He also tells us how our own durvasanas, our own negative tendencies are the dry wood, which is causing a friction against the durvasanas of other living entities, and which is causing the forest fire. Then, dear devotees, we also saw, after the 3 points, we also saw that Sri Radha Govindanath emphasizes that there are 3 things needed for a great forest fire to get extinguished: continuous and intense, and the third point, continuous, intense, prolonged. So these 3 points are needed for rainfall. Similarly, Sankirtan also should be continuous, intense, prolonged. And if our Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is continuous, intense, and prolonged, then we will be free from the burning sensation of this material world. Sri Kanupriya Goswami enters by saying, Cheto Darpana Marjanam is stage 1. then it helps us realize how bhava, material existence, is Mahādāvāgni. Then Shri Krishna Sankirtanam will also do Nirvāpaṇam, it will extinguish it. He also asked the question, why is Mahādāvāgni, why is the material world a great forest fire, not simply a forest fire? He replies by saying, because this forest fire has been burning since beginningless time, Anadikal. And it will continue to burn as long as the living entity doesn't escape from this forest fire. So he gives these reasons. Then he says, he describes how Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is the remedy for bhava-mahā-dāvāgni. So dear devotees, in this way we have explored the term to a great degree. I'd like to pause here my speech. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Yadatra skalitam kinchid vidvamsah purayantu tat. Yadatra saushthavam kinchid tad guroreva me nahi. Yadatra skalitam kinchid. If there's any mistake that I made, vidvamsah, your learned devotees, purayantu tat, please correct any mistakes. But yadatra saushthavam kinchid. If there's anything nice in the presentation, please remember, tad guroreva. It belongs to my gurujanas. Me nahi. It doesn't belong to me. Especially Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who said, Shri Krishna plus Sankirtan is Shri Krishna Sankirtan, and Shri plus Krishna is Shri Krishna. So Shri Krishna means Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, because many people may be named Krishna, but we are referring specifically to the son of Nanda Maharaj, along with Srimati Radharani. With this, dear devotees, I'll pause my speech. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such a wonderful session. I am taking home the message of continuous, intense, and prolonged Sri Krishna Sankirtan. That is such a powerful message. And if that's the one thing I hope to take away and keep with me for a long time. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation and bringing out so many wonderful points from the Acharyas. So let's go to Q&A, Prabhuji, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, let's begin Q&A. Let's just remember a few things. That please remember to ask questions on the topic that was discussed today. And if you have a question which is of a very specific reference, or which needs me to look something up, then better to ask that query in the WhatsApp group. We have a WhatsApp group specifically for asking queries. Those of us who want to join the WhatsApp group, which is specifically meant for asking queries, you can send an email to a particular email address. I'm sharing that email address. If you want to join the WhatsApp group, which is specifically meant for asking queries related to Śrī-Caitanya-Śikṣāṣṭakam, this is the email address. You send an email saying that I want to join the WhatsApp group, and you please include your WhatsApp number so that we can add you to the group. And please don't ask any loaded questions. We don't want to promote any institution or any individual. The individuals whose commentaries we are discussing, those individuals are no longer physically present. And the intention is not to promote their branch of the Sampradaya, or not to promote any particular institution, and not to critique any particular institution or individual. So please don't ask any loaded questions. And please ask one query at a time. If you want to ask multiple, then you can wait for your second chance. All right. So with that, we'll begin. Prabhu, you can kindly take over. Karuṇā Prabhu. All right. So I think Karuṇā
Yes.
Prabhu.
Thank you.
Let's begin.
Am I audible?
Yeah. Please continue.
Yeah. We'll start with Tanvi Mataji.
Sure.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much. Every Saturday, you really surcharge the upcoming week and really feel very blessed for your association. So I had this doubt that, as you said, that continuous, intense, and prolonged Sankirtanam is the solution for this wildfire. But Prabhuji, the forest fire of this Bhava Sagar includes like the sufferings, the unlimited desires. So in spite of that, yena kena prakarena we can do continuous or prolonged Sankirtan, but how will it be intense if our desires are not that strong?
So question is, how will it be intense? How will our Sankirtan be intense? So sometimes what happens is we perform Sankirtan, or we hear or we describe Krishna Katha, Hari Katha, but it is very lightweight. It's like you go to a class and you hear in the class something very basic like, oh, Krishna is the Supreme Lord and the Jiva is the servant of Krishna. You surrender to Krishna and you will become happy. Achha, theek hai. This is good for a person on day one. Now, after 20 years have passed, if they are still listening to the same, then something needs to change. So what needs to change is the intensity first and foremost of Shravanam, and then the intensity of one's Kirtan will also change. This is specified in Srimad Bhagavatam in the verse of Kapil Muni, and I will point out that particular verse. This is 3:25:25 from Srimad Bhagavatam, and you can see here I am shared my screen. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido. Right? So, mama virya samvido. Virya samvido means my powerful katha. So, Krishna Kapil Muni is saying, so, in association of pure devotees, discussion of pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. The virya, it should have that strength, that Krishna Katha should have that intensity, that one's heart is moved by hearing such Krishna Katha. So not simply lightweight, popcorn Krishna Katha, that, oh, Krishna is God, surrender to God. This is good for newcomers. Later one should have intense Krishna Katha. And then when intense Krishna Katha is there, then the heart starts changing. Because if intense Katha is not there, then we cannot. You see, I could have just said bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam means material world is a great forest fire, Sankirtan extinguishes it. This is also explanation of bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. But intensity is brought by the commentators. You see, after you hear from the previous commentators how intense that one particular phrase becomes. I could have read out the word for word meaning of bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam and said this is what Shri Krishna Sankirtanam is. But do you feel a difference, Tanvi Mataji, after you hear from the intense commentaries of the previous devotees? How do you feel? Was it lightweight or intense?
Surely it's intense.
It is intense. All right. The previous session, which was on Avidya, where we took from Srila Jiva Goswami's Sandarbhas, how was it? Was it lightweight or was it? How did you feel it was intense?
It was surely intense, and we got many new points.
So you are saying, by your own admission, you are saying that it is intense. Why? Because we are studying in depth. When you have virya samvido, when you have that intense katha, then when you describe to others also, your Sankirtan will also be intense. And when your Sankirtan will be intense, you will also have the desire to read in and study and learn in an intense manner, not simply learn on a surface level. That will definitely help. That is the answer to your query. Intense Shravanam, intense degree of Shravanam leads to that intensity also in Kirtan. That is the answer to query. I hope that satisfies your query.
Yes, Praveen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Param Karuṇā Prabhu.
Next we'll go to Next we'll go to Dhananjay Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dharan Pranam. Thank you for this wonderful class. I had a question around if Sankirtans are heard through the recorded sessions on a YouTube or through the machine. Are they effective for devotees who are far from ISKCON or not in association with other devotees? But if they are listening through the recordings, will it have the kind of effect as you were explaining?
What about ISKCON? Can you please repeat the query?
Yeah, so my question is about the recorded kirtanas, either through YouTube channels or the device that we get from the ISKCON gift shop. There is a which continuously plays kirtans or japas and other mantras like kavachas are also there. Now coming back to the, because we can shravan also and we can repeat it also. The only difference is that we are alone in a room listening through a device or through a YouTube channel. So would this practice be categorized or qualified to be a kirtan, or it has to be in person in a temple or going through the whole town parikrama and then doing kirtan? That is the actual kirtan and Sankirtan.
What? See, many people are restricting kirtan only to Nam Kirtan. Is kirtan simply restricted to Nam Kirtan, or are there
No, I
other types
understand
of?
that. Yeah.
So there is Rupa Kirtan, there is Guna Kirtan, there is Lila Kirtan. All of these are also known as Kirtan, Sankirtan. Now, Hari Katha, hearing and participating in Hari Katha is also Sankirtan, you know, because we are describing qualities, pastimes, etc. of Bhagavan. It is best to listen in person, because in person you can ask doubts and get them resolved. But when you listen from a recording, you may have some doubts which may not get solved in a recording. So there will, right? So when you have the opportunity to ask questions on the spot and get them solved on the spot, that is what you call some kirtan, complete kirtan. Because actually speaking, complete explanation consists of 5 parts. And I will pull out the verse in the Upadeshamritam sessions. I had said this, there are 5 aspects of a complete explanation. Padachchedaha padarthoktihi vigraho vakya yojana akshepasya samadhanam vyakhyanam panchalakshanam. So I'll pull out that particular verse. Padachchedaha padarthoktihi vigraho vakya yojana akshepasya samadhanam vyakhyanam panchalakshanam. Short and sweet, I'll describe the verse first. There are 5 aspects of a complete explanation, and these 5 aspects are as follows. I am sharing my screen. You can see in that particular screen. Padachchedaha padarthoktir vigraho vakya yojana akshepasya samadhanam vyakhyanam panchalakshanam. A vyakhyan, complete explanation of any shastra, consists of 5 aspects. What are the 5 aspects? Padachchedaha, break down the text into individual terms. You do word for word in a Bhagavatam class. This can happen on YouTube. Padarthokti, you explain the meaning of each and every term. This can also happen in a Bhagavatam class. Vigraha, Vigraha is you explain difficult terms. This can also happen in a YouTube online class. Vakya Yojana, you read the translation. This can also happen in a YouTube class. But 5th is Akshepasya Samadhanam, resolution of various doubts and correction of various errors that the disciple might have made while understanding Shastra. This doesn't happen on a YouTube video necessarily. Some doubts may be solved in a YouTube video, but the 5th aspect, resolution of various doubts, is usually takes place live. So the answer is, are YouTube kirtans or are YouTube lectures also Sankirtan? They are Sankirtan Vat. Vat means they are like Sankirtan. They have almost all the characteristics of Sankirtan, except for the characteristic of live resolution of doubts. So I hope you are able to understand this. All right.
So if someone asks questions, like we are having this QA sessions, and in that, at times we have same question and someone has asked same question, that also gets addressed, but still it will be under like category only, as you said. Right?
Yeah, because a lecture, even this one Zoom lecture, doesn't allow you to see the personality of the sadhu. The personality of the sadhu is seen only in person. It is not seen in a recorded lecture. So this is the answer to the query. All right.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I have another one, but I'll wait for the turn again.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. We'll go to Mahesh Prabhu next.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Dhanatman Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for another beautiful class. Prabhuji, my query is regarding the thing is we discussed that you said that the person who is giving us misery is like an agent and we should never blame it. So we understand that. Prabhuji, how to practically deal such situations, like a kind of, you can say, like home violence, like, like female and male thing, or like violence in nowadays, like in the society about dharma and things. So if someone like is doing wrong thing, maybe he cheated us or something, should we understand that this was because of our karma. We may not get angry being a devotee or thing like that, but should we tell others about it or try to stop him or correct him, or where should we draw the line, or just let it go? Just like,
Right.
I hope you get my question.
All right. Yeah. So in society, we may see many wrong things happening. If it happens with us, we can tolerate. No problem. We can learn to tolerate. But how much should we warn other people, or how much should we try to even prevent the suffering that is coming upon us? See, just because suffering is coming according to previous karma doesn't mean that we don't have the means to stop the suffering. Sometimes diseases come, but we take medication to prevent the diseases. If we simply say that I will let this suffering happen upon me, which means that we are not employing even means to counteract it. When karma is given, it is given with the calculation that you have counteracting means. I hope you are able to understand. So,
Okay.
if one foolishly does not employ counteracting means, then obviously that karma, the suffering will be multiplied manifold. So any counteracting means that you can use to prevent the suffering, that is all right. But you don't have to inflict suffering upon others in that process. You prevent suffering caused upon you, but you may not want to inflict suffering unless there is a higher reason. And higher reason, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, if you have to protect the society, or if you have to protect the family. So, if there is a higher reason involved to inflict suffering upon others, then that inflicting suffering upon others is justified. For example, in a war, to protect your society, you have to inflict suffering upon the aggressor. And Shastra says an aggressor should be killed. But if it is not a war situation, or if it is not a risk for one's family or one's society, then one may consider only protecting oneself, not inflicting suffering upon others. So this is how Shastra explains these situations. But again, it creates a new cycle of karma. Now, how do you get out of this entire cycle of karma? That is by Shri Krishna Sankirtana, because Shri Krishna Sankirtana exhausts prarabdha, aprarabdha, all sorts of karma. And that will be the subject matter of another discussion, how prarabdha, aprarabdha, etc. are destroyed by Shri Krishna. But as far as remedies are possible, if any remedy doesn't cause any harm to other, those remedies are also part of the karmic calculation, and you should take that remedy. All right.
Prabhuji, one small query remains in this. Like, just I give you example of maybe a devotee wife, but a non-devotee husband. Husband is like cruel or like, harsh on the wife. And if she's thinking that, till the time I have a bad karma, so I'm suffering or I'm not being allowed or something. And so what actually can be done, like to repel or to like, in a position of like, female, considering that.
See, the position of a female, especially, see, there are different degrees of negativity that one spouse may have. Somebody's spouse may be having a basic level of negativity. Don't go to the temple. I don't like the devotees. Just if you stay at home, I'm okay with it. This is one level of negativity. Another level of negativity is physical violence. Another level of negativity is threatening with killing the spouse. There are many levels of negativity that can happen.
Maybe a mental abuse, which is more prominent.
So you're speaking of a very specific situation, but unless the specifics of the situation are known, we can't, come to a conclusion. I'll tell you one example. Although I myself also I also want to avoid giving examples, but Srila Prabhupada's sister, when she was married, she didn't, exactly have a very supporting partner, it is described. And after some time, Srila Prabhupada arranged for her to come and stay with him. She came back to her home. So you can read more about her. So her circumstances were different. And the circumstances which you are specifying may be different. So we have to see a proper analysis of the situation should be done by considering the details of the situation. But in general, if it is possible to tolerate and maintain favorability, that is recommended. And if the situation is more extreme, then consultation from Vaishnavas about this specific situation is required. I say a general answer cannot be given. Giving a general answer to this will be like giving a painkiller for a very specific disease. And I wouldn't like to give a painkiller for a very specific disease. So that is
So the idea is till the time one can tolerate and favorably do bhakti, then that is
yeah,
fine.
that is all right. But if it is becoming impossible to tolerate, then some help should be sought from either from Vaishnava or if required from the family members or from other authorities in the society. Right?
I got it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Premananda Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna Prabhu. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yeah.
Prabhu, for a wonderful class. I have a question on the verse that you quoted from Vairagya-Shatakam,
Right.
where it says that renunciation is the only fearless factor. So
Hmm.
could you please explain me that part, because too much renunciation can also be harmful.
Yeah.
like dry
And
renunciation. So how do we see that?
that finer intelligence of too much renunciation is harmful is with the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Generally in India, you just keep increasing renunciation and you are good to go. You're good to escape the material world. So Bhartrihari's is also of the same mindset. Keep increasing renunciation as much as possible. You are good to escape the material world. That finer intelligence, that too much renunciation will prohibit you from experiencing Bhakti Ras, that will only be found in the circle of Srila Rupa Goswami.
Yeah.
But the main point of the verse was not that Vairagya. The main point of the verse was that it was continuing from the previous verse, which says continuous material enjoyment cannot extinguish this fire. In fact, continuous material enjoyment will increase it. On top of that, continuous material enjoyment is not even possible. Why? Because somebody may say there's a fire is burning. Let's say a tiny fire is burning and you pour a large amount of fuel suddenly on it. There is a small possibility that the large quantity may extinguish the fire. There is some small possibility, but that's a great risk. But still, it is not possible to pour a large quantity because bhoge roga bhayam, enjoyment comes with the fear of diseases. It's not possible for us even to pour a large quantity of enjoyment on this body. No matter which enjoyment you take, you can stretch your body to a certain limit beyond which the body says enough. That's it for today. So that was the crux of the verse. The last part, Vairagyam eva bhayam, was not the crux of the verse because in that we have a difference of opinion with Bhartrihari. That bhakti is the abhaya. Abhay Charanara Vinda, the lotus feet of Krishna are abhay for us, not Vairagya. But he was quoting the verse to make a point. So we accept part of that verse. So I hope that clarifies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will go to Anusha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams. Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture, Prabhuji. So my main take-home point was how to avoid the blame game, which I'm, playing. You very beautifully explained through the examples, Prabhuji. And also, whenever we are going to open the newspaper or geography textbook while seeing the forest fire and the Mumbai rains especially, we would be reminded of Mahaprabhu's mercy, Sankirtana and Mahā-dāvāgni. Thank you for teaching us to see Krishna everywhere, Prabhuji. And my question is, I miserably fail when it comes to the point of application that when we are enjoying something which is very dear to us, so at the peak point of happiness, how do we remind ourselves that it is Mahā-dāvāgni and this tuition?
You don't have to remind yourself it is Mahā-dāvāgni. Mahā-Dāvāgni is supposed, the realization that the material world is Mahā-Dāvāgni should happen as a natural side effect. And how will that happen? It will happen when we will naturally experience a higher rasa. Simply by becoming one's own police inspector, it has limited utility. But beyond a certain point, this function of acting as one's own police inspector doesn't work. And this principle is specified by Shri Krishna in the Gita, where he says in second chapter, verse number 59, I am sharing the screen. He says, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam Vishaya vinivartante. If you try to stop your material enjoyment and try to perceive the material world as miserable, your immediate material enjoyment will go away because you are nirahar, you are keep starving your body, dehina, of material enjoyment. But rasa varjam, one thing will not go away. The desire will not go away. The question you are asking is, we have intense desire. Obviously, Krishna is acknowledging the desire doesn't go away. Rasa varjam, the taste for enjoyment doesn't go away. But rasopi, the taste will also go away. Asya param drishtva, if you find something genuinely better and not just something which is proclaimed in a textbook as better, which your mind says is genuinely better. Because sometimes we just say this other person says that bhakti is better, so bhakti is better, so I must accept bhakti is better, so bhakti must be better. So, but why is bhakti not becoming better for me? Are Baba, because we are parapratyaya buddhi. So our intelligence is depending on somebody else's intelligence. Our intelligence has not independently verified the fact. Once our intelligence has verified that bhakti really is the higher experience, or bhakti is param ras, that higher ras, then our mind will not need certificates from other people. Our minds will say, by my own experience, I know bhakti is pararas. And when this pararas is there, then mind will say, then why do I need, other enjoyment? So therefore, policing oneself is of very limited value. An experience of bhakti ras is what makes the entire change. So that is the answer to your query. Okay, thank you. Right, Param Karuna Prabhu.
Thank you. Yes. So next we have Yadupati Hari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dhanavas. Am I audible?
Yeah.
So, thank you very much for the wonderful class. So I have this doubt, like I think Radha Govinda is like in the commentary, like you mentioned, calamities or the results are earned by our own karma. But like in case of a devotee, if we see like that, aren't we falling into somewhere into karma mimamsa, like because I'm not able to see the hand of the Lord? And also, if you think like, okay, only Krishna is causing, then we are feeling like Krishna is putting me into trouble. So how we can actually identify this and how to behave?
Calamities are a result of our own karma. Karma is of many types. Aprarabdha, prarabdha. Prarabdha is the karma which we experience in this current life. Prarabdha is very difficult to get rid of unless you're one-pointed. It's very difficult to get rid of unless you're one-pointed. So even if somebody is one-pointed, if they get some suffering by Krishna's desire, that devotee, they never lose their most favorable quality, which is anukulyana Krishnanushila, which is the favorability in their service towards Bhagavan. And there is that verse, Tattenu kampam susamikshamaano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam. I'll share that verse so that devotees will come to know what that verse says. This is 10.14.8 of Bhagavatam. I'm sharing my screen. This verse is to be understood properly for us to understand the mindset of the devotee who is suffering. So, tatte anukampam susamikshamanu. When we enter into suffering, we start doing samiksha. You can see here samiksha. Samiksha means analysis. What is analysis? Who is responsible for my suffering? But susamiksha, when we do proper analysis, we come to know that actually nobody else is responsible. I am responsible for my own suffering. And such a susamikshamana, such a person thinks, why am I being put into this suffering? Because if I were not to be put into this suffering, I would not mature. People don't mature in their spiritual life in happiness. Many people mature in their spiritual life in suffering. The maturity that one attains after suffering cannot be attained after attaining a lot of happiness. Suffering leads to a lot of maturity. Then one understands actually this suffering was anukampa. This was Bhagwan's mercy. So susamikshamano. This person always seeks, always analyzes, and always looks for the anukampa, the mercy of Bhagwan, whether it comes in the form of suffering or not. And he knows Bhunjana, while he is experiencing Atma Kritam Vipakam, his previous incorrect activities, the result he is experiencing. Ridvag Vapur Bir Vidadhan Namaste. He pays his obeisances to Bhagwan. Bhagwan, obeisances to you. Without you, I could never have understood. Jive Tayo Mukti Padesa Daya Bhag. One who lives like this is eligible for liberation. Let's take the example of Nalapuvar and Manigriv. Nalapuvar and Manigriv had become intoxicated to the point where when Narad Muni came, they were sporting in Alaknanda, which is Ganga basically. But Alaknanda is meant for the sadhus. They could have chosen any other river and Narad Muni would not have disturbed them. And they were sporting in Kailash, which is meant for the sadhus. And then they could have chosen any other place in the heavenly planets and Narad Muni would not have disturbed them. But they chose Kailash and they chose Alaknanda, both places meant for the sadhus. And when a sadhu is coming in front of them, the girls who were with them had at least the decency to cover themselves. The girls at least had the decency to cover themselves in front of Narad Muni. So the girls did not get cursed. These, both of them just got up like this naked and say, Hari Bol Narad Muni. Now, you tell me, Prabhu, what is required for people who have this degree of intoxication? How will these people change? With happiness or with suffering?
Suffering.
So you have to give you are in, let's say, for a moment, you are put in charge of the situation. You are put in charge of reforming these two people. How will you decide to reform these two?
Giving some kind of punishment.
My goodness, aren't you cruel? Yadupati Hari Prabhu. Bolo.
For their sake. For their sake.
So a devotee understands, unless I would have gone through this, I would never have attained the maturity. Because one who suffers realizes that I should never put somebody else in a similar suffering. So then gradually the intoxication which is ruling one's mind comes down. So that suffering is actually anukampa, the mercy of Bhagavan. This attitude the devotee has. A person, let's say some lady gets married. She's suffering in her marriage. Her husband is abusive and she can't do anything to prevent the situation. So then somewhere she thinks, now Prabhu, let's say this lady, she's married, her husband is abusive. For some reason, she manages to escape the marriage breaks. Right? But that impression of abuse is on her. In her next life, will she become abusive towards the other person, especially after she has suffered abuse? Tell me. After suffering abuse, does a person become easily inclined to abuse others?
No.
No. So that is very important. One who goes through a particular suffering does not like that suffering to be inflicted upon others. It's very important. So that suffering comes as a benediction of Bhagavan. So that is the answer to your query. The devotee looks upon it like that. Right? Thank you very much.
We'll go to Shyam Chandra Prabhu next.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanapranam. Yeah, thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhuji. Bhava-mahā-dāvāgni is like a problem, and then we are trying to actually find a solution. So in Bhagavatam, actually, we find many verses stressing on various things like a solution. Like in some verses, basically they focus on vidya, because the root cause of all problem is avidya. So vidya is a solution. And some verses stresses on vairagya, because without vairagya, without controlling senses, you cannot get vidya. Like even Shankaracharya followers, first thing is that you take sannyas, right? And some other shlokas, they focus more on Sharanagati. Like even Arjuna, without surrendering to Krishna, he didn't get vidya. And once you do these things, other things are automatically there. Once you get vidya, vairagya automatically follows. So some people say that you do vairagya first and vidya automatically follows. Or some shlokas focuses more on Sankirtan, because Sankirtan is easy. You don't need Sharanagati, you don't need vairagya, because people in general are not very intelligent. So you do Sankirtan, and then automatically everything else will follow. So I mean, how do you reconcile these things? Like these are different items. These are not like the same things. Like how do you understand like different things focused for the same problem?
Yeah, right. So the one yardstick with which we can understand these different messages is because munde matir bhinna, that different people have different needs. When Parikshit Maharaj came to the banks of the Ganga, and there were not one solution that was offered to him, there were multiple solutions offered to Parikshit Maharaj. Before Parikshit Maharaj selected Srila Shukadeva Goswami as his instructing guru. But the multiple solutions came from multiple minds, and those multiple minds had accepted those respective solutions as the solutions for Parikshit Maharaj. And those solutions may be valid for somebody else, but Parikshit Maharaj could not accept those solutions. Even in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami tries to give in the beginning solutions to Parikshit Maharaj. I will quote the verse. You can see those verses later, and you can see it with the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This is tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha damena cha tyagena satya shauchabhyam yamena niyamena cha. Shukadeva Goswami himself is giving the solution. You can see here straight away. 6.1.13. Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha damena cha. So deha vag buddhijam dhira dharmagya shraddha. You need you need to have knowledge of dharma. You should have shraddha. So he gives the translation is here: to concentrate mind, one must observe a life full of celibacy, not fall down, control the senses, charity, truthful, clean. All these things are given as solution. And then Sri Shukadeva Goswami, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says this is a test actually. Sri Parikshit Maharaj is not happy with the solution. And then Shukadeva Goswami immediately, then in the next verse is Kechit. But some fortunate people, Kevalaya Bhaktya, simply only by bhakti, Vasudeva Parayana, Agham Dhunvanti Karsnena, fully destroy bhava-mahā-dāvāgni, fully destroy all their sins. Niharam eva bhaskara, just as the rising sun destroys the fog. So this is, Shukadeva Goswami also gave various solutions, but it depends on the candidate. Some other candidate would have accepted the previous solutions, but Parikshit Maharaj did not accept those previous solutions. Parikshit Maharaj, it was only the path of bhakti. So the answer to your query, how do you decide? Each individual decides according to their inclination. But Kechit, very few ones who are fully inclined to, who have come to the point that only bhakti yoga is needed, they will take up bhakti yoga. So I hope that answers query to a certain degree.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Anuradha Mataji next.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, goes to Srila Prabhu. I don't know whether in the earlier class when you were explaining Marjanam, then we compared it with the water. The cleaning happens with water. And today you were explaining it. Today you were explaining it as a cloud. So is there any correlation between the cloud and the water?
No. The only thing is the commentator is saying that Sri Krishna Sankirtanam is being compared to various auspicious objects. Seeing a cloud is considered as auspicious. Purifying water is auspicious. So Sri Krishna Sankirtan is being compared to various auspicious objects. That's all.
So they need not be depending on each other or not. Okay.
No, there's no correlation mentioned by the commentator.
No. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Let's.
Next we have Kamla Mataji.
Yeah, Kamla Mataji, right.
Hare Krishna. Koti Dandat Pranam Prabhuji. Dandat Pranam to all the devotees here. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for such an beautiful session as always. You're enlightening us with your knowledge, our dark hearts. So, Prabhuji, my question is that sometimes we do understand that, all that suffering that is coming to us is because of our own karmas. But sometimes it's so hard to, accept that the other person is not, is just an instrument in delivering that karma. So how can we practically apply this, hammer it into our consciousness so that, we can forgive them or, move ahead with that suffering, because it's a mental suffering all the time that that you've been wrong. I certainly I agree with you on that you said that a person who suffers, he becomes more compassionate, but still it's so hard sometimes to, forget or maybe just understand it, hammer into our consciousness that this is like our result of our own karmas and they're just being instruments. So how can we proceed?
Therefore, it is said that it requires susamikshaman. It requires a devotee who has come to that level of maturity, because while we are undergoing the experience of suffering, it is very difficult to immediately say that, oh no, this is because of my previous karma. While we are undergoing that experience of suffering, our mind is disturbed, and the mind naturally tries to find excuses for this disturbance. That no, I cannot be responsible. This person is responsible. That person, I cannot be responsible. This came upon me, and I am the victim of this particular situation. And this will happen with everybody, almost everybody. It will happen with. Shri Krishna confirms this about when in the beginning of the chapter of the Avanti Brahmana, he confirms this fact, where he says that there is nobody in this world who's capable of resettling their mind after it has been disturbed by the harsh words of unscrupulous people. So I will quote that verse from the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I am sharing that verse where Krishna says it's almost impossible to immediately reconcile your mind. So this is 11:23-2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Barhaspatya Sanaskyatra Sadhurvai Durjaneritai Duraktair Bhinnamatmanam Yah Samadhatum Ishwaraha. The translation is, O disciple of Brihaspati, there is virtually no saintly man in this world. Man here means person in this world capable of resettling his own mind after it has been disturbed by the insulting words of uncivilized men. So Krishna agrees, immediate settlement of mind is impossible. So this, that I am responsible for this, is a very mature state of mind. That when you are looking back upon it, I hope you are able to understand, when you are looking back upon the suffering that happened some time ago, so that is when a mature devotee may think, well, actually, I think I did something wrong previously. I think I did something wrong previously. So, for example, we were speaking about, there was a question about a lady who's being emotionally abused by her husband. So similarly, there may be a husband who may be emotionally abused by his wife. Let's say there may. So every day he comes home, she's always in a bad mood. Is always, cursing him. Why did I marry you? Marrying you was the worst mistake of my life. So something like that he's getting to hear on a daily basis. So immediately he can point out to the lady and say, she's the cause of my suffering. But then ultimately, when he one fine day is sitting alone and he's thinking, I must have done something terribly wrong with somebody in my previous life. Everybody else around me, I see they don't have such an unfavorable situation, the situation that I am having. I must have done something wrong to deserve this. Tattainu kampam susamekshamano. This is the time. Bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam. This is when this person realizes, oh, now what might I have done in my past life? I must have treated somebody like this without understanding the repercussions. I must have treated somebody like this without understanding the repercussions. I must have tremendously hurt some living entity in my previous lives in order to get what I am getting today. All right, the past is gone. What can I do right now? With folded hands, I seek forgiveness from the Jiva whom I offended in my previous lives. Although, I will continue to go through this negative experience, but mending that previous wrong begins today. But I seek forgiveness from the living entity whom I have wronged so much, who deserved nothing to suffer in my hands. So this maturity is where the devotee takes responsibility, and then the devotee transcends that feeling of victimhood, that I am the victim in this situation. And then after you transcend the feeling of victimhood in a particular situation, you become larger than the suffering. You become greater than the suffering that you are experiencing. Once you become greater than the suffering that you're experiencing, you are able to gradually transcend it. So the suffering may continue to happen, but you're situated on a higher platform. I hope that satisfies your query.
Surely, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for a wonderful, wonderful reply. I'm really indebted to you. Hare Krishna.
Thanks.
We'll go to Kriparam Prabhu next.
Yeah. Kriparam. My pranam, Shri.
Dando Hari Parshad on all the Vaishnavas. I have one query about how to harmonize or reconcile the sutra that you explained at the last week, Loka Bhattu Lila Kaivalyan, and this concept of that this material world is bhava-mahā-dāvāgni. And
Right.
specifically, my question is about, because we preach to our community and we try to inspire the devotees in Krishna consciousness, but some preachers overemphasize this term that this world is mundane, material. This is a lot of suffer, asaswatan, dukkhalayam, and I feel that in some cases this kind of preaching is not good for the devotees, especially if the devotees have some depression or something like that.
So definitely, if a particular devotee has some depression, and if you say the material world is just a lila of Bhagavan, that person may go into further suffering. Acha, his lila is my suffering. I don't want to believe in such a Bhagavan. I don't want to believe in such a God who's causing suffering for myself. So we have to tell them in a more nuanced way, in a more finer way, that you have not simply received suffering, you have also received a lot of material enjoyment. Both enjoyment and suffering of this particular world Bhagavan is completely away from that. Bhagavan doesn't participate in the material enjoyment. Bhagavan doesn't participate in the material suffering. He's completely aloof from the enjoyment as well as the suffering. So why does he create the world? Well, he creates the world because he himself is in a lot of bliss. His bliss is spiritual. It is not material bliss. And he does not experience material bliss or material suffering. So his bliss is purely spiritual. He creates the world out of his bliss. But then why are we suffering in his world? Well, we are suffering because the reactions are being given by Jiva Maya according to the seeds that we have planted in the past. Now, we should take some responsibility as to not plant new seeds for the future. And the seeds which we have planted in the past, we can eradicate their effects by proper Sankirtan. And Bhagavan will help us in that. Because Bhagavan says in the Gita, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Those who are dedicated to me, I give them intelligence by which they can come to me. So by this, we have to remove the feeling that Bhagavan is taking vicarious pleasure, negative pleasure, sadistic pleasure by seeing our suffering. The main problem is this. Main problem is people are thinking that Bhagavan is taking sadistic pleasure by looking at our suffering, which is not the case. Bhagavan does not derive any sadistic pleasure by anybody's suffering, because that will make Bhagavan uh, a cruel person. And Bhagavan is not a cruel person, because it is specified in the Brahma Sutras, in Vedanta Sutra. There is something specified. I will pull out that particular verse, Vaishamya Nairgrinya. So, yeah, I am sharing my screen so that you can have a look, and you can have a look at this sutra, and you can study this sutra from Govinda Bhashya. You will get a lot of clarity about this sutra. So same Vedanta Sutra says, Vaishamya Nairgrinya Na. There is no biased nature. Bhagavan doesn't favor me, Bhagavan favors him. That is not there. Nairgrinya, there is no cruelty. Na, it says Na. There is no biased nature, there is no cruelty in Bhagavan. Why? Sapekshatvat. Because the reciprocation that we get in the material world is according to the previous karma that we perform. Tathahi darshayati. And the scriptures also say this. So scripture says, Esha eva sadhu karma karayati tam yam ebhyo lokebhyo unninishate. Esha eva asadhu karma karayati tam yam adho niniyate. Bhagavan desires to elevate somebody to higher planets according to their previous karma. Bhagavan desires to push somebody down to lower planets according to their previous karma. Somebody has behaved in the past life like a womanizer. They have, terribly, they have become addicted to hunting various women. Such people deserve lower planetary systems, because in lower planetary systems, there are women of that nature. There are women of that nature who will engage with such a person. In the lower planetary systems, it is described that when a particular person enters the lower planetary system, what happens? So I will share my screen also, and where it is described how relationships are in the lower planetary systems. So it is described. The Swairini, this is 5.24.16 Bhagavatam. The Swairini like to marry men from their own group. Kaminis like to marry men from any group, and the Pumschalis change husband one after another. If a man enters the planet of Atala, lower planetary system, these women immediately capture him and induce him to drink an intoxicating beverage made with a drug known as hatak, cannabis. So this intoxicant endows the man with great sexual prowess, of which the women take advantage for enjoyment. So why did Bhagavan push a particular person in that lower planetary system? The seeds were like that. Previous seeds were like that. So he got certain association. But, gradually they will rise in the human form of life. You have an opportunity to change the future. In this mature, detailed way, it should be explained. But if you only explain a part by saying Lokavattu Lila Kaivalyam, but if you don't explain the other sutra, Vaishamya Nairgrinya Na, Sapekshatva Tathahi Darshayati, then you will not do justice to Vedanta Sutra. So it has to be explained in its totality. All right. I hope that answers your query. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. We'll go to Omkar Prabhu next.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for the today's lecture, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I had the question about this Nam Sankirtan point. I think some devotee did raise the question in WhatsApp group, but I wanted some more clarification about it. Sometimes, like in Nam Sankirtan also, we have a little different taste for different Nam. But what happens is that when we sometimes go in a particular group or sometimes in a Sangha, where let's say only Mahamantra Kirtan is only encouraged. So after a certain period of time, it's my personal experience, like what happens is we sometimes develop a aversion to it, because it's like, you are hearing the same thing again and again in a very mechanical way. So I would like to know your views about it.
Okay, so the thing is, the previous acharyas have said, and I will specify the conclusion given by the previous acharyas. It is specified in Brihad Bhagavatamritam. This verse was going to come up in a later session, but since you have asked the query, it is right here in front of us. In Brihad Bhagavatamritam, this is 23160. Sarvesham Bhagavan Namnam Samano Mahima Pichet Tathapi Swaprayenashu Swartha Siddhi Sukham Bhavet. So, Omkar Prabhu, you kindly read the translation.
Though all names of the Lord are equally great, a devotee most quickly, most easily achieves his goals by chanting the name he himself holds most dear.
This is the conclusion given in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. When Shri Sanatan Goswami says Samano Mahima, Saman Mahima, what is the meaning of Saman Mahima?
Samanaha Mahima. It has same Mahima, similar potency.
Yeah. Equal amount of greatness is there in all the names. But depending on which name the particular sadhak is attracted to, that particular sadhak easily achieves their goal by chanting that name, Swapriyena Ashu. Do you remember this verse within your heart? But when you're going in a big group, you have to follow what the group says. And if the group says, no, this is the best mantra, that is the best mantra, of course, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is considered as the best because it is mentioned in the Upanishad, it is mentioned in the Shruti directly. That is why, and it is, there are, Śrī-Caitanya Mahaprabhu also gave this mantra. Śrī-Caitanya Mahaprabhu also gave other mantras of Sankirtan. Ram Krishna Hari, he also gave Krishna Keshav, Hari Haraya Namah, Krishna Yadavaya Namah, Gopal Govind Ram, Shri Madhusudan. He gave many mantras of Sankirtan to many individuals and asked them to chant. But if in a particular group you are being told that, this is the mantra and don't chant any other, they are preventing you from chanting Bhagavan's own Naam. So then, better than saying anything is to keep quiet at that point of time. Another thing is, if you are in a group has to chant one Naam. Now, if everybody starts chanting their own individual Naams, how can they survive as a group? Isn't it so, Omkar Prabhu?
Yes, sure.
So when you are in a group, there is obviously a necessity to select one Naam. And different devotees will give their choice, and then you have to select one Naam to chant. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to decide, this is the Naam we will chant. Today we will chant Hari Harai Namah. Today we will chant Krishna Keshav. So in any group, we have to respect the majority's opinion of the group, because that is what a group is made of. A group is made out of the majority. So if the opinion of the majority is this, you support that, and if you can't support that, at least we can keep quiet. We should know what the acharyas say, that Swapriyanam. Swapriyanam means that name which is dearmost to us. That kirtan we can perform when we are alone or when we are with like-minded devotees. So that is the answer to your query.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Prabhuji, there were some questions in the chat. Do you want to take those before going to Mahesh Prabhu, or should we go to him?
I think those who are waiting live, their time, because chat questions will stay, there are some devotees who had raised their hands and then they put down their hands because they don't have time. So I would like to give priority to those who have raised their hands.
So I only see Mahesh Prabhu's hand raised.
Yeah, sure. So we'll take Mahesh Prabhu's query and then we'll go to the other queries.
Hare Krishna, Pranam Rory. Rory, just a quick question. Rory, does the word bhava, which meaning material world, has a deeper meaning? Because I remember in some lecture I heard that Lord Shiva is also called bhavam, like bhavam,
Yeah.
bhavani, say some this famous word. So if you just
Yeah.
wanted to, I cannot recall.
Yeah. So you want to know what is the meaning of what? Is there a deeper meaning of bhava?
Yeah, bhava, bhavam, like similar. I don't know Sanskrit, but maybe you can explain better. Or like bhav, because I thought Amrendra Prabhu was telling something is like changing. That's why it's called bhava, something like that. I don't remember exactly.
I mean, I don't want to assume anything. What has been said.
I'm just asking you, probably.
The Sanskrit meaning of bhava is very clear. Bhuyate iti bhava. So, that which takes birth is known as bhava, basically. So, the material world takes birth, it is known as bhava. That which comes into existence is known as bhava. So, material world comes into existence, therefore it is known as bhava. That's all. So,
okay, anything which becomes into existence is called bhava. Okay.
Bhava. So that is the meaning of bhava.
So bhavam is it related to Shiva, like
yeah, another meaning is bhavati asmat iti bhava. From him everything takes birth, therefore he is known as bhava. In the material world, from him everything takes birth, therefore Bhagavan Shiva is sometimes known as bhava. So there are multiple grammatical derivations of bhava, and you can find, according to the derivation you take, you can find various personalities being indicated. But
so it can be like extended to other things as well.
Yeah, but when we study a verse, the first meaning we are supposed to look at is the mukhya artha, the meaning which was intended by the author. So what was the meaning intended by the author of bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam? What is the meaning of bhava intended by Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu?
It's obviously material world.
So that is mukhya artha, that is the primary meaning. And Śrī Caitanya Mahaprabhu always wants that we should study a text mainly from the primary meanings, and if there is a secondary meaning which adds some embellishment, some value to the primary meaning, that is okay. We'll try to do that, but as of now the primary meaning is bhava means samsara. Samsara is material world. All right.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Pranam.
My pranams.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
That brings us to the end of the live participants.
Yeah.
So my chat had got disconnected a little while ago, and I reconnected. So the previous couple of messages I cannot see anymore. There was a question.
There's a question.
Dorothea Mataji.
Yeah. So I will read that question. The question is, can a philosophical discussion be counted as intense Shri Krishna Sankirtanam if we are a mere listener, Shravanam, who is absorbed in hearing? No, if we are only listening, we are performing Shravan. And if we are participating by asking questions and doing a discussion, Ishtha Goshti, that is what counts as Kirtan Sankirtan. So you have to also be a participant in the process, not simply by passive listening, but also by asking queries and giving some points. Second is, you mentioned under the guidance someone who has extinguished the fire himself. How do we know if an individual has truly extinguished bhava-mahā-dāvāgni in himself? Because they have attained the further stages. Shreya, Kairav, Chandrika, Vidya, Vadu, Anandam, Bodhi, Vardhanam, Bhava and Prema have been attained in their life. If you see, there are 6 qualities of Uttama Bhakti. First 2 are Kleshagni and Shubhada. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says these occur at the sadhan stage. And 3rd and 4th are Laghutakrit and Moksha Laghutakrit and Sudurlabha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says these occur at the bhav stage. And then 5th and 6th are Sandrananda Visheshatma and Shri Krishna Karshini. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says these 2 occur at the stage of prema. So Chetodarpanam Arjanam, bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam, they can easily occur at the stage of sadhan bhakti. Somebody who has risen up to bhava bhakti or prem bhakti, you are sure that they have done bhava-mahā-dāvāgni-nirvāpaṇam. So that is the answer to the query. All right. Anything else? Can good behavior prevent emotional abuse, as Sankirtan will take time? The previous results will may keep coming. So current good behavior will prevent previous bad behavior. That is not the case. In the first shower of Madhurya Kadambini, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that previous negative activity, previous one activity does not cut another activity. It is also said in the Srimad Bhagavatam when Yudhishthir Maharaj was suggested that you perform Ashwamedh Yagya to cut the sinful reactions of killing so many people in the war. So Yudhishthir Maharaj said one activity does not cut another activity. Sankirtan should be performed now, and it should be performed in as intense manner as possible. If the suffering is unbearable and you have also reacted violently and also remotely responsible for the conflict, but at present the husband's behavior is too toxic, how can the wife protect herself and her children, and the wife is trying to be a devotee? Now, this is a very specific question. It's also, without this question does not involve the other side, who is the husband. This question is being asked from one side and is describing the situation from one side. And ideally, I should not give a solution without listening to both sides. But in general, if assuming that this situation is being described accurately, if the situation is too toxic, then one should definitely seek help from Vaishnavas, from one's family members, and from other authorities in the society, because the elders in the society will guide us what to do in such a situation. How to join WhatsApp group for discussion about topics in the details? You just write an email to the email address which I am showing on the screen right now. Write an email to this email address, siksastakam.hpd@gmail.com. Include your WhatsApp number in that email address so that we can add it to the group. So that is how you get added. All right. Anybody else? For that person who is delivering the results of karma, is it Kriyaman karma or Prarabdha karma? For that person, the person who is delivering is simply an agent. Sometimes the agent does not receive any reaction. Sometimes the agent may also be personally involved in the karma. Depends from karma to karma. Krishna says in the Gita, Gahana karmano gati. It is very difficult to understand the intricacies. You have to take it up case by case. You can't give one solution for everything answer. Then how does Prayaschitta work? How does Prayaschitta work? Prayaschitta is a specific Vedic karma. Prayaschitta is not good karma. Prayaschitta is a specific type of Vedic karma specified in the Vedas for counteracting previous negative karma. But Prayaschitta, you have to perform a certain set of actions. And that may be Krichra Vrat, that may be Chandrayan Vrat. So there are many vratas specified to counteract previous negative activities, but the specific activities you have to perform. That is how Prayaschitta works. Prayaschitta doesn't work that today I will start behaving good. That is not Prayaschitta. Prayaschitta is what Shastra describes as Prayaschitta. So that is the answer to the query. All right. Okay.
We have Yadupati Hari Prabhu, I think last hand raised. Would you like to take it, Prabhuji, or?
Yeah, I'll take it. Yes.
Go ahead. Yadupati Prabhu.
Yes, Hare Krishna. So, like you were mentioning in the answer, like when karma is given, it is given calculated according to the counteracting means. So, like a devotee will feel that was the thing compound, but along with that, we will also do some, like we will also execute some practical measures.
Yes.
Like that.
Yes. There is a verse about that karma reaction is the result also takes into account all the counteracting measures that you have. So I will try to find that verse. There is a verse in Subhashit Ratna Bhandagar. Oh yes, I found the verse. Just a minute. I am sharing my screen. This is providence or daiva described in the Shastras. And सा सम्पद्यते बुद्धिः सामतिः सा च भावना सहायस्तादृशा एव यादृशी भवितव्यता. Can you read the translation, Yadupati Hariprabhu?
Translation. One's intelligence, mental state, emotions, as well as any external that one receives are all perfectly aligned to the outcome decided by the providence.
Oh, one of the factors is sahayas. External help that you are going to receive is also already decided, right? This verse is key in understanding how, the remedies that we are going to take are also taken into account before the reactions are given, right? Oh, was that the query? Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. I have one small question, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
So this, again, I come back to this consistent, continuous, intense, and for a prolonged period. And this, I'm just trying to clarify, can be equated with Anudinam and Adarat that we understood in Upadeshamrit.
Yeah. Anudinam and
So
Adarat
it's
were
the
there.
same teaching.
Yeah, but in Adarat we also include this is like intensity. Intensity means it should have that level of virya. It should have that potency to really affect the consciousness. That is what should be. That is what the verse is adding here. Sorry, that is what Sri Radha Govindanath ji in his commentary he added. But this is what it
and Prabhuji, how to? Okay. Yeah. Yes, Prabhuji. No, that's good enough. That's very nice.
Okay.
That's all. Okay. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you for another wonderful session. Please, I have unlocked the unmute. Please, let's all thank Prabhuji from the bottom of our hearts for such a wonderful session and such deep Q&A. This is just I have never, this is just so blissful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very, very, very much.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Srila Prabhupada.
Shandatna Prabhu, thank you so much.
Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay, I will close the call now. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. See you all
Thank
next
you so much, dear Hari Pārṣad Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.